Hello everyone, this is the Random Engineer. What we're gonna do today is a SolidWorks tutorial series for SolidWorks 2016. We're basically gonna start with sketches, then we're gonna features. After that, we're doing some assemblies, simulation, stuff like that. And later on, we're gonna do some projects with a 3D printers, machines, things we can do at home, basically just to help our everyday life. And I hope you guys like this series. These videos are going to be uploaded to YouTube after the streaming. So the first series are going to be just SolidWorks tutorials for really people that are wanting to start designing in SolidWorks. First of all, SolidWorks is an engineering design software. So if you're trying to do some artistic work, it's there are other softwares that are better for it. Mainly SolidWorks takes into account solids, materials, relationships, and interferences, patterns, and any mechanical properties of what you are going to design, and it's gonna take into account whenever you are doing drawings for manufacturing. So we're gonna start with the basics, and this series is gonna be about SolidWorks sketches. So whenever you start SolidWorks, you're always gonna find this: the Solid System SolidWorks 2016. This is going to change depending on the software you have. Basically, you're going to have all this, and you just have to go to New, and you will have Novice or Advanced settings. So today we're going to do a part. I always like to have Advanced over here because we can do some templates and have like a different settings for a new part you're going to do. But for now, we're going to start with a regular part. And this is where all starts. Here you see a lot of stuff, different shapes, words, and everything that you may or not know. So what you really care about is these two if you're starting. After that, you may have to right-click this one and just start going with more add-ins or stuff like that. But for now, we're gonna focus on these two. Oops, sorry. If this happens, just drag and drop into the top, and it will snap back. So to begin, we have this area. I don't know if you can see this square. Oh, I don't think you do. Okay, we have this area where you have all these icons over here, which are basically zoom to fit. So it doesn't matter what size of design of part you have. It will zoom it until you can see the whole part. Zoom to area is where you can just focus on area and it will zoom to it. This is just a previous view, cut section view, and you can hover over all these icons and see what it does. And basically, what we care about right now is the origin and view planes. So if you click on these, small eye, you can click on view origins and view planes. So here you have your front plane, top plane, right plane. If you right click it, you can click on the eye and it will show it permanently. And with scroll, if you click the scroll, you will be able to see and rotate these planes. And well, in reality, we are rotating the space we have, and we will see different planes in different projections. So if you want to go to, let's say, a front plane, you can select on this plane and say, by the way, this is the views. These are your views. and you can click on this, and if you hover over this, it says from view, and it shows you the hotkey, which is Control-1. So you can go front, right, left, top, and bottom, and also the back plane. And if you click on this, you will be able to see this view selector, which is only a different way of view your planes. For my hotkeys, I have this in a space. So if I click on the space, I will be able to see this. And you see, if you click on your scroll and maintain it and rotate it, you will be able to see this, as well as the other orientation views. So if you click on something, it will go there, and if you don't click on anything, it will return to the original view. And usually on these planes that you see on the left, you will be able to see the preview of what you want to see of that view that you are going to select. Alright, so now that we have our planes, we just have to, whenever we start with a new design, we have to choose which plane we're going to start. That is going to influence on the drawings, or it's going to influence on other orientations depending on your assembly. So this part is really important whenever you want to, depending on the manufacturing strategy that you're going to have to design. So let's say we were designing if we were going to design a sheet metal part, we would potentially we would have to design in a front plane, and it's good if we have the origin, which is this blue arrow and points. If we have that origin, we will be able to see where the puncher would start punching the profile. Let's say we were doing a CNC, a milled part machine. It would be better if we start designing from the origin to the right and top, or the right and bottom, because that means whenever you import it to a CAM software, the origin is always going to be the same, and the person who's going to be using the CAM software will have it easier for manufacturing. So you have to take that into account. But since we are just going to start with sketches, we don't have to worry about that later. Also, if you see sometimes that things start moving too fast, it's because I'm using my hotkeys. Control-1 is front plane, Control-2 is right plane, and so on and so forth. Control-7 is isometric, and Control-8 is normal to. So if I select a plane and go normal to the top plane, it will just go normal. If I go Control-8 again, it will go normal, but in the opposite direction. Just for your reference. So if we want to start a new sketch, let's say we want to start with the front plane. Also, I'm just going to hide this. I'm just going to hold on Control and select the planes, and you will be able to see a new eye with a line over it that says hide. So it will just hide it. So yeah, we're going to start. If I select the front plane, it gives me a preview of what's going to do, and you can just go into a sketch tab and say sketch, and you will be able to see how you can start doing some lines and circles and other stuff like that. So you can also notice how the blue origins changed to a red origin. So sketches is basically the shape that you want to cut or extrude or create or revolve or whatever you want to do. So the sketch always changes depending on how you want to design. For example, if I make a line, if you go horizontally, you can see a horizontal line with a yellow background. That's going to tell you, if you click and if you click on that horizontal line, it's telling you that it has a green background with a line, horizontal line. It's telling you that line is always going to be horizontal. Same if you do a line with a vertical orientation. Just click, and if you click on the line, it will tell you, it will show a horizontal orientation. So that means no matter where you put the line, it's always going to be horizontal. So now let's just go to Smart Dimension, and you can define that line by saying this line is 50 millimeters. You can go right here and say units, and you will be able to select what units you want, or you can just type millimeters or inches, and it will automatically transform that value to your default unit system. So let's say we said 50 mil. All right, so that's another definition of that line. What we're just saying is this line is 50 mil and it's vertical. So no matter what you do, that line is always going to be 50 mil and vertical. For example, let's say this line is going to be started in the origin. You can see how the line becomes black. That means that line is fully defined and nothing is going to be able to change it but this value or the relationships. So this value is the one that defines the sketch, so we can change this one, and so the line changes. And if we don't change it, the line doesn't change. Same with the horizontal relationship. We can just click it and delete it, and you see how the line is blue again. That means it's not completely defined, and that's because the line now can move. And since it's not vertical or horizontal or any angle or any other relationship, that means that this line is going to be always 40, starting at the origin, but you need something else to define it. So let's say we want this line to be 50, and we have already this relationship that's horizontal, and let's say we want it to be here at the origin as well. So this line is now black because it's completely defined, and this line is blue because it's not yet completely defined. And what we can do is go Smart Dimension and say again, we want this to be in an angle. And if you click on the lines, you just have to click them, and it will tell you the angle or the up or the complementary angle or the overall angle on the opposite side, the same on all the sides. So you can have, with the same Smart Dimension, you can have 4 different angles. Let's say we want 135 just to have it nicely defined, and you see how the line now becomes black because it's completely defined. So now that we have those lines, let's start doing a square. Let's say just a rectangle. The secret of designing with sketches is knowing your relationships. So let's say I'm just gonna click on this small arrow, and it will tell you a different way to define a rectangle. I just want a point-to-point rectangle, and it's gonna be and if I start here and end here, it's just gonna make it. So now you see how you have black lines here. So that means these lines are defined, but you see at the end of that line you have a blue point. That means the line is defined but not the point. So that actually means that you can stretch it or make it smaller or change it in direction, stuff like that. So you always have to be careful about having your sketch not defined or completely defined or not. That influences in the way that if you don't do it, you won't be able to predict some changes in your design, and all this comes into you have to take this into account whenever you want to do smart smart relationships between parts and stuff like that, which we will cover later. So now we've just drawn this this square, and we'll just say we want this to be 20 and this one to be 35, and you see how the square well, the rectangle defines itself. It's because since we said we want a corner rectangle, it already assumes that this is vertical and this is horizontal. So no matter what you do, it's always going to be like that unless you delete this relationship. So now that you have deleted, you can see how this line can turn into an angle, and this blue point is not yet defined. So you can do some other shapes faster and easier if you don't want to do it this way. But for now, we're just gonna delete these lines and keep going with a circle. The circle, it's basically just that, a circle. There's different ways to define the circle. If you go to the arrow pointing downwards, you can find a regular circle or a perimeter circle, which is just 3 points to completely define the circle. And it's basically that. So for a circle, you have different ways to define it. Basically, you just have to say what's the diameter or the radius. In this case, let's say that 50 is the diameter. And you just have to say what's the dimension between the center of the line and some other point. Since all this is already black, you can define it from anywhere. So let's say 60 horizontally and 50 vertically. So now the circle is black. You may also want to define this circle with another relationship, which is not the center point. So you can always just delete this relationship, well, these dimensions, and click on the circle itself, and let's say this line. So you automatically, it's gonna tell you the dimension between those and the center point. But if you want to say you want it from the closest circle, you can just double click the relationship and go to leaders and say the minimum. So that's the minimum relationship. Same with this one. In this case, let's say maximum, and it completely defines the sketch. So you can always play with this and see how it starts looking, and if you like what you see, you can keep going. If not, you can always just change it. So now that we've got this shape, let's say we just want to make something out of it, because this is just a 2D drawing. So let's just finish this by doing some other shapes. If you go up here, you can see you want to point an arc, 3-point arc. I just want a 3-point arc going from here to here, and you can define the radius if you want to or not. So you can see we have an arc now, and let's say we want this line and this arc to be tangent, and you see you can have a equal curvature length, a fixed relation, or a tangent relationship. So if we do tangent, you see what it does. It makes the arc tangent to the line. So that's something else I'm just going to show you, but in this case I don't want that. So I'm just going to make another arc here and say I want another line going up, and you can drag these points and make them together. You see how it changes. Now they are attached together. You can say these two are that, and now the only thing that's keeping us from completely defining this sketch is the radius. And let's say you want a smart dimension from this circle and this circle. You want the center point distance, or you can double click escape and say the maximum dimension between those two or the minimum dimension between those two. So that's another way of defining your circles. And let's just say we just want a 90 radius. If you want to change from radius to diameter, you just click on that relationship and go to leaders and click on diameter or radius, and it will automatically change it to whatever you want. So for the arc, since it's not completely closed, we want a radius, and for the circle you can do the same, but since it's a circle, it's better to define it by diameter. So now that we've finished our design, let's just say we want to extrude it. So this is just sketches, so you're in sketch mode. If you want to go out of sketch mode, you click on here and you see what the sketch we did, and this is, I believe, is the front plane. So now you're in a 3D environment, and then you just can change all the planes and all the relations. So with my hotkeys, I can change and preview what I want to see in an asymmetric view, and it will do it. So there are other relationships that we can do with sketches that we will cover later, but for this part, we're just gonna go to features and say we want extrusion, which is just like an adding of material. You go to sketch, extrude, and it will let you drag and drop or define a length that you want this. So let's say 70, and that's it. Basically, you're just starting with your first SolidWorks design. You can do other cuts, and if you see here, it created an automatic hole. But if you want to fill that hole, you can edit feature, right click, edit feature, and you can select the contours. So for example, we have, if we go from the front to the front view, we have two contours. That means we have this contour right here or that contour right there. We can select both, and it will automatically fill up that hole. Let's say edit feature again, right click on the select contours and delete, and you can select just a circle, and it will do just a circle. And yeah, I think that's a good first start for our tutorial series. Let me know if you have any issues in the comments. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube, and hopefully we'll do some more advanced stuff in the future, like the product design or machines or stuff like that can be of help around the house. I hope you like this series, and if you like it, just go like subscribe, and all that good stuff. See you later.